G'day YouTube, Turbo Tristan here. Welcome to the first video of 2021. This one is one I've been meaning to do for a long time. It's going to be a recap of all the cars I've owned, all the mods I've done, and also where the channel's going in the future in 2021. So it's going to be a big one. We're approaching 1,000 subscribers, so I figured it was about time that I share a little bit more about myself and the cars I've had, how I came to be doing what I'm doing, and also what projects are ahead in the future. At time of filming, we're around 985, 86 subscribers, very close to my 2020 goal of 1,000. Now, as some of you know, YouTube works when you get to 1,000 subscribers. As some of you know, so at time of filming, it's the 2nd of January and we're at about 985 subscribers. My goal for 2020 was to reach 1,000. Now, I didn't quite hit that goal, but we're very close. As many of you guys know, once you get to 1,000 subscribers, you can apply to be monetized by YouTube, which means I can start making a tiny little bit of ad revenue off all the videos I make, which has always been a goal of mine, to make this more of a career rather than a hobby. How did I get here? Well, all good stories. You've got to go all the way back to the beginning. And what I'm going to do in the editing phase is I'm going to try and put pictures just here somewhere of the cars I've owned, and as I'm talking about it, it's going to pop up just here. So hopefully I do a good job of editing that. Even though I've been driving cars since I could hold a steering wheel, so about 3 or 4 I've been steering, putting them in D for go, and driving cars on my mum's lap. I learnt to drive manual first when I was around about 12 years old on the farm. I grew up on a farm, so paddock bashing cars. Even though I didn't know the difference between manual and automatic, I was shifting gears when I was around about 12 years old, driving around a paddock in an old farm Hilux. So that was fun, and whenever the family wasn't looking, I would slide the car, I would spin the tires, I'd do all sorts of dumb stuff. And I really just developed a passion for cars and driving from a very early age. Now, growing up on a farm, you kind of are isolated, and if something breaks and if you need a solution to a problem, you've kind of got to fix it yourself. So that's where that passion came from. Just if something doesn't go your way, you've got to work out a solution to fix it. No tape measures. Never having the right tools, not knowing what you're doing, but just trying to pull it apart, put it back together again and figure it out. So that's how I started tinkering with machinery, cars, bikes, you name it. So that's where that started from. Actually driving cars on the road, I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I didn't actually get my driver's license, my P plates here in Australia, until I was around about 20 years old. All of my other friends got their P plate license, which means you can drive without an adult in the car when you're 17 years old. So I was quite a few years late to the party. I'm very happy with and very proud of my very first car, which was, I'll throw it up here, which was a 1991 Nissan Pulsar SSS. It was a Jap spec car, which meant it had the over fender flares, different body kit, brake light was in the rear spoiler, not in the back window, different badges in a different spot. If anyone is familiar with the Nissan Pulsar SSS N14, they didn't come out Jap spec until a number of years later. So either my car was something special that snuck in, or somebody went to a lot of trouble to make that car look like it was a Jap spec, even down to the trim on the doors, on the seats, the gauge cluster, the way the fuel gauges went up and down instead of side to side, all that sort of stuff was all changed. So that car was a manual, 5-speed. It featured the Nissan SR20 DE engine. They came out from factory in Australia with 105 kilowatts at the flywheel. The car had a Momo steering wheel, Momo gear knob. It had Subaru WRX seats from a 2002 model, which were awesome. They were so cool to have those seats in there. The car had an exhaust and a K&N panel filter. Being silly, having a nice car, I was testing it one day at the local drag strip in Orange, which was a track that we marked, which was about 10 k's out of town. There's a dead straight section of road near the airport, and we actually were the ones. So my group of friends, me especially, with the spray paint, marking the lines and then trip metering it 400 meters down the road. That was our drag strip, and we would hang out there just about every night. It was far enough out of town that we didn't get any traffic, no one bothered us, and also there was no one around to call the cops on us. So we'd stay out there for hours just running backwards and forwards, car after car. We'd invite people out when we're going, and we'd do that. So one particular day, I was out there with a friend, and we had a G-box meter, which is like the draggies that they have now, but this was a long time ago. So we had it on the windscreen. I was doing a timed quarter mile. The previous owner to the car, it was a big trend to have a really short gear shifter, and people called that a short shifter, but it was actually just a cut down one. For some reason, having a little Atari gear knob sticking out of your leather boot gear was like all of the rage. So below the WRX seats, out of sight, out of reach, was this tiny little shifter with a Momo gear knob on it. And I made the mistake of power shifting from the top of third gear off the rev limiter. Instead of going straight to fourth, I went down to second and just exploded all of the rocker arms in that car, and that was the end of that. I replaced that one with a Jap spec 119 kilowatt SR20 DE, advanced timing, new plugs, new leads, went right through it, and it was actually quite a powerful NA SR20. The car was lowered, as you'll see in the photos, had a nice set of rims on it. I can't remember what they were called. I'm pretty sure they were Advanti something, but they were really nice. I loved them. I love that car. I wish I still owned it. It was awesome. I ended up selling it back to its original owner after owning it about maybe 4 years. After that, on to bigger and better things. I bought a Nissan 200 SX S14 Series 1, which I really liked at the time, over the Series 2. It's a bit weird, most people love the Series 2 more, but I love the Series 1. Base model, no sunroof. That car had a Power FC, a ball bearing T28, front mount and exhaust, and some 740 injectors. Back in the day, before I owned it, it was one of the faster cars around, because having 200 kilowatts, believe it or not, was absolutely massive if you had 200 kilowatts at the wheels. So the car had a bit of a reputation before I bought it. It was something like Run 200 or something like that. The number plates were, I can't remember, but everyone knew the car. It had a set of R34 GTR wheels on it, which I later sold and then bought back again, those wheels. That car also blew up. It blew the ring lands in cylinder 1. It was a tired original engine. So what I did was I bought a wrecked Nissan S15 Spec R engine, gearbox, all the interior, all the body panels, all the doors, boot, everything. Someone had got an S15 that was crashed, totally stripped it and put everything in a pile in the corner and did nothing with it. I was able to pick that whole car up, already stripped, for $5,000, which was very cheap back in the day. This was about 2007, 2008. Kept the engine, sold the gearbox, sold every single other part, sold the seats to one of my mates, Benny. Straightened out the rails, everything. They had a pretty big hit on the driver's side, so he put those seats in his 180SX. I put a set of Greddy easy cams, bigger throttle body from an S13, new exhaust manifold, new turbo, new rebuilt gearbox, new clutch, everything. Redid the car, made 220 kilowatts at the wheels on 98 fuel with the Power FC. Had the Z32 airflow meter, which was the must-have mod. Back then, that was the most you could push it if you had a Z32 airflow meter, because bigger diameter. 13 PSI, that was tuned by Unigroup. I'd actually met Evan a few years prior, he used to sponsor one of my mate's cars. I went back there. He was the guru of tuning. So we tuned the car 13 PSI, which is nothing at all. I probably could have ran 20, but I would have run out of fuel pump and injectors. This car, I painted the bumpers. I got the Nissan body kit from Japan. It took me about a year to track down every single part. JDM bumper, side skirts, front bar, grille. Me and my mate Shah, we painted it 3-layer pearl. After that, the car got in Fast Fours magazine and HPI magazine, which was a huge achievement. That's when 200 kilowatts got you magazine coverage in Australia, which again was huge. The car was so fast A to B. I took it to Wakefield Park, did hundreds and hundreds of laps there. I actually cried when I sold that car. I loved it to death. I'd changed every nut, every bolt, everything had been in and out of the car. You'll see I'm going to put tons of photos up of this one. By now, you've probably seen 5 or 6 pictures. But the engine bay, custom piping was all done by Process West, but I just take them a little piece of pipe and get them to fabricate something on their lunch break and then swap it over. Just piece by piece, I did everything individually. Custom pod filter cover, I fiberglassed that myself with a beer box, made a mold, I think it was extra dry, and made a mold for that. Painted everything, all the plastics, S15 pewter grey, Nismo coilovers. The car was mental. It had Skyline brakes, every adjustable arm you could imagine, GDR 32 seats, just an awesome car. From there, I moved on to an S15. I bought Australia's cheapest S15 at the time. Actually, we'll go back. My SSS Pulsar cost me $11,000. I sold it for $14,000. Back to the same owner. S14 200SX, that cost me $20,000. I sold it for $14,000, but I had that car for about 6 or 7 years, maybe. I feel like I had it for a long time. That was expensive then. They were selling for around about 8 or 9,000. So for me to get 14,000 for that was pretty big. Then I bought an S15. Australian delivered R-Spec, which had the sunroof, leather seats, side skirts, all that sort of stuff. Had 180,000 Ks on it, which by today's is nothing. Had a swipe in the door, a couple of dents, scratches, bird shit stains all over it. The thing was black. I did all the body work, put new guards, new bonnet, fixed the dents in the back, replaced the door, smoothed it out. I was going to wrap it satin grey, and then do like gloss black wheels with like Tiffany brakes and rocker cover and everything, and just do like a grey black Tiffany theme. It was pretty cool back then. But what ended up happening is my missus at the time had a bit of a sook, so I sold the car for $12,000. The guy was a panel beater, so he resprayed the car in satin blue, put an RB25 30 in it, and made about 900 horsepower and used to drag race the car. It was awesome. So that went to someone deserving that looked after the car and kept it for a long time. Next, I bought the Holy Grail. I bought an R32 1990 model. Very tidy, very well looked after. When I bought it, it had 250 kilowatts at the wheels. It was tuned on a NIS tune, stock turbos, stock injectors, stock fuel pump, but just tuned and boosted up. I got that car, put the side skirts on it, Group A side skirts, rear pods, rolled the guards, put some Varstoen 18-inch wheels. They were 10.5 wide, a square set, plus I think 18 or 30 offset. Came with Bilstein coilovers, so rode well. I put sway bars on it, big brake kit front and rear, Not long after that, I had the car tuned at Croydon Racing Developments with the Dash 5 turbos. It made 298 kilowatts at the wheels on 18 psi. It wasn't too much longer after that that the engine started to knock and rattle and smoke. So the engine came out. I bought a R33 engine that had been 1mm oversized, forged with a set of 264 Kelford cams. Did the oil baffle, rocker baffle, oil drain. Everything was done. All Nitto seals and gaskets and everything in the engine. Catch can. I went to E85 1200cc injectors. I had the car tuned at Croydon again, and it made, on the same boost, 330 kilowatts. So I picked up an extra 32 kilowatts just with the cams and a healthier motor. I was actually saving up to put a Haltech Platinum ECU in there and do a flex fuel setup and run the car on E85, and was hoping to push around 400 kilowatts out of it. And then on that fateful day, which will be with me for the rest of my life, I crashed the car. Now the way it happened is I was following some of my friends, one in a 335 BMW, one in a WRX. They were going to go and have a little street race. I wasn't taking part. That was never the case, but I wanted to stay with them. They left work before me. I had to catch them. And then in traffic, it was 2 lanes, merged to 1. Somebody decided that at the last second they needed to turn, and traffic just scattered everywhere. And I darted around one of the cars in front of me, and the back stepped out, and then I panicked, and then next thing I know, I'm off in a ditch. And being an all aluminium guards bonnet roof, the car just crumbled. So that was a write-off. Anyone that knows me and knew the car knows it was one of the tidiest, most original R32 GTRs out there. The guy wanted 14. I paid him 12 grand for the car, and over the course of around about 18 months to 2 years, I'd spent another $30,000 on that car. So 7 grand for the engine, tuning, injectors, fuel pump, intercooler, suspension, wheels, tires, all that sort of stuff. It all added up. GTRs are very expensive to own and modify and keep on the road. It was my daily driver. I absolutely loved driving it. Everywhere I went, no matter what, someone would give me a thumbs up, whether it be an old guy or a kid. If I parked it, there'd be a flock of kids around it. It was a pretty loved car and pretty respected car. It was just a tidy street car. So after the car crash, I was looking around for an R32. They'd all jumped up in price to around $20,000, which to me at the time was just ridiculous. I was looking at either spending $40,000 and getting an R34 GTR, or I was looking at spending an extra 2 or 3 grand and getting an R33. Now, a lot of people hate on the R33 GTR. Mine was beautiful, amazing. One of my favorite cars ever is an R33 GTR. If you look up Gun, G-U-N 33R, belongs to a friend of mine, Jason, done by Dartone Racing up in Sydney. Gun 33R is the most beautiful GTR you'll ever see. And if I had have owned mine longer, it would have ended up looking just like that. I was on the hunt for an R33 or an R32 for cheap. Everything that was done to mine and how tidy mine was, there was no way I would find an R32 for anywhere near 20, even up to 30 grand I was willing to spend on an R32 if it was as good as the one that I had. Seems funny now, right? I ended up finding a 1996 Series 1 R33 GTR in silver. Really nice, bright, vibrant silver. V-spec. It had a set of 19-inch by 11 TE37s in white, which just looked amazing on the car. It had the carbon fiber insert in the rear spoiler. And under the bonnet was a fully forged Trust Greddy engine. So what I mean by that is it had 272 cams, every single part, piston rod, oil pump, the whole lot, manifold, turbo, wastegate, everything was from the Trust and Greddy catalogue of the early 2000s. So the car had been fully built by someone. They would have spent $1 million on the car, because when they were first imported, they were about 50,000, and then to have even a blow-off valve from Greddy was like $500 Australian for a used one. So you can imagine what the whole build cost. It had a Trust T78 turbo, screamer pipe, old school build. It didn't come on boost fully until about 6.5, and it revved out at 8.5. So it had to go. It was fun and it sounded good, but it had to go. So I put a 3582 GTX Garrett turbo on there. I had full boost by 3,000 all the way up to 8,500. So then I added a flex fuel sensor from Haltech. It already had a Haltech Platinum ECU in there, going from the 3582R on 98 fuel. So by adding the flex fuel sensor from Haltech, it enabled me to run E85. It already had a Platinum 2000 Haltech computer in the car when I bought it. So I added the wideband, added the flex fuel sensor, a couple of other sensors, and it made 380 kilowatts at the wheels on 98 with the smaller turbo, the more efficient Garrett turbo. And then by simply putting E85 in the car, the power jumped from 380 kilowatts all the way up to 450 kilowatts on not much more boost. It was on 27 PSI to make that sort of power, which was just awesome. So that car I paid $21,000 for. The guy had it listed for 27. He was way out in the bush somewhere up in Gunnedah, and I caught a bus there. It took me 8 hours on a bus to get there. I had a check for 20,000 and I had a couple of grand cash on me, and I got there and I just said, here's my offer, 21, and I just held my hand out and he shook it. Done deal, drove the car back. So I was pretty happy with myself. I put about another $18,000 into that car after I got it back. And then stupidly I sold it just because I was sick of spending money on GTRs. Every bill was $5,000. So the clutch started to make a noise, took it in to get it checked, and they were going to charge me about 4 or 5 grand to replace the clutch and pull it out and all the labor and stuff, which was a great price, but I just didn't want to spend it. So I sold it, and actually the person that bought the car was the person that spent all the money back in the early 2000s on the car. So as soon as it was listed for a day, and I bought it for 21, I sold it for 35 overnight, and then I bought myself a Nissan Pulsar 2015 model. Here's a picture. SSS turbo 1.6, my first brand new car. So my first car was a SSS, and my first brand new car was a SSS. And although it wasn't the best looking car when I got it, I spent some time, spent some money, not a lot, and I got the car looking pretty sweet. I've got to say, it put out around 200 kilowatts at the wheels out of a 1.6. Those cars are fantastic bang for your buck. If you're wanting to spend about 7 to 10 grand on a turbo manual car that's easy to modify, fast and fun to drive, I'd recommend getting one of those. Not many people know about them. They run the Renault engine, which is a very strong engine, MR16 DDT. I actually love the car. It was great. It had all the modern features and it was really, really fast. Off a roll, it sucked if you tried to launch it. No LSD, and it just torque steered and spun the wheels everywhere, and you just couldn't get it off the line. But on a roll, WRXs couldn't catch you. Most other cars couldn't catch you on a roll. 200 kilowatts, light car. It was pretty fast. I ended up giving that car to my daughter as her first car. So my first was a SSS, her first was a SSS. So then I moved down to Melbourne, and I decided to start my YouTube channel. And what better car to start on than a Honda Civic. Now the original plan was to keep this D16 just to get the car registered and immediately K-swap it and immediately all-wheel drive the car. But I kind of fell in love with the D. Love me a bit of D. So I decided to turbo it just for fun and see what happened. And it's a good experience. And I'm going to keep going with it until this one blows up, and then I'll probably do a K. So there you go. There's my car journey so far. We've got the Mrs. CU2, we've got the brother-in-law's EG, and we've got my EK, which are project cars on the channel. I just wanted to take this time to thank everybody who's tuned in and subscribed. Every single one of you, all 985 of you that have subscribed. It really, really means a lot. Hopefully, once I get to 1,000, we're going to steamroll all the way up to 5,000, 10K, hopefully soon. So the OG guys will notice a lot of changes have been happening with intros and art and things like that throughout the course of the last year. Firstly, I want to thank Cody Douglas. He made my original intro. He made sort of a fan video and compiled all of my videos together, and I really liked the intro, so I asked him if I could have it, and he gave it to me, so that was awesome. That's the Fire T and the Turbo logo that you'd be familiar with, and the music. Cody, thanks so much. That was awesome of you, and I know I've thanked you a million times before, but I can't thank you enough, mate. It's really generous of you, and you do have some really good skills. I wish I could do that myself, so I wouldn't have to rely on you, but thanks so much, Cody. After that, you'll notice end credits. There's a nice picture of my car, which has been done professionally. I had that done by a guy called Michael in the States. He's got his own graphic design company. It's called SKRULL, so SKRULL, Twin Scroll Design. And he's actually made me some artwork, which I intend to properly frame. I'm just keeping it here in this packaging for now. It's come out of the tabs, but I keep this in a very safe place inside the house, away from my grubby fingers. Here's his logo down here, Twin Scroll Design. I'll link him in the description. So he's done my spool up logo, my Turbo Tristan logo, and the car. So that's just awesome artwork. Everything is absolutely perfect, matches my car to a T. So couldn't be happier with that. Of late, you'll notice there's been another new intro, which is a cartoon of my car racing up the road in the middle of the night making cool turbo noises. That's just another guy in the community that I found. His Facebook is Dirty Hand Screw Brush, and he's in Thailand. So I commissioned him to make a couple of videos. There's one with the Lambo, one for my car, and I'll probably get him to do one on the CU2 and one on the brother-in-law's car, and I'll use different intros for different things. $1 Australian to the Thailand money is, you know, a huge help. So very cheap, about 25 bucks to make that video for me. So I sent him 40 bucks and made a bit of a donation because he's very talented. I also wanted to say a huge thank you to my Patreons: Alex, Aiden, Patrick, SJ, Nate, Moses, and also Stu, who doesn't get a mention on the credits, but Stu's helped me out quite a bit. He bought the Wuhan war whistle, which is tucked down here, so couldn't have done it without him. And he's also helping me out a lot with some mechanical tips. And as I've said a million times, I am not a mechanic. Most of the time I have no idea what I'm doing, but I get in and I have a go, which is what I encourage you guys to do. If you see me make a mistake, then you know not to do it. And I've made a lot of mistakes over the time, but I'm also not a engine tuner, an engine builder, a fabricator yet. I'm learning, or a body panel and paint guy, but I do my best and I think it comes out pretty good. Coming up in 2021, the tune for this. So I'm going to run this engine in, get it tuned, turn the boost up, The reason it's not running yet is I've got to do some tie rod ends for the steering rack. I destroyed my last one, so I've got to replace those. I'm just waiting for freight companies to get back out on the road. I bought a digital screen dash, which is phenomenal, and I can't wait to unbox that and show you guys that. Also in 2021, we're going to move away from doing things the dodgy way. Everything I've done on this car has been an experiment, and I wanted to show you guys at home the cheapest way, the bodgiest way, the simplest way to get through and get things done. But as of now, we're done with the stupid stuff. We're going to go into more serious things. So we've got the serious brakes, the serious motor, the serious dash, the serious computer, serious boost control, serious brakes, sway bars. All that's left now is tyres. So once I can afford to, I'll get some sticky, grippy tyres for the track. We'll do some drag racing. We'll go back to Sandown and we'll get a bit more serious with the car. So hopefully I can start to get some sponsors and people that are going to take the channel very seriously, like myself. In the short term, I'm going to begin work on the brother-in-law's EG. I'm going to paint a new bumper, new guard, new bonnet, fix the A-pillar, the door, the rear quarter, and I'll get that back to as close to showroom condition as I can. So that's going to be painting the whole side of the car. We're going to do it in rattle cans again because it worked out awesomely this time on my car, and now that I've had more experience, it's going to come out even better. So I'll be bringing you guys along for the ride on that. We're also going to tidy the car up a bit and do a service on the K20 swapped EG. Hopefully more things to come on the CU2. I have 2 friends, clients, customers that I'll be turbocharging their Honda Civics. One is a D-Series eBay kit, so I'll bring you along to build that. Another one is a B16 turbo kit, so we'll be doing that one as well, hopefully. And also there's talk in the works of me turboing the brother-in-law's Mazda Bravo Ute for a bit of fun, bit of extra power. We can do that on the standard ECU, I'm told. So we're going to do that, run a couple of PSI, maybe 7 or 8 PSI through it, and make some videos doing some crazy stuff in that. So that'll be fun. So there's heaps coming. If this blows up, it will be getting a K-swap of some description. So we'll leave the video here, guys. Thanks for watching. Take your dirty fingers, click like, click subscribe. Don't forget, spool up, bring the boost, and we'll see ya for more videos in 2021.